today's theme is risk, which is a very appropriate theme because I'm not a native English speaker, so I feel this is kind of risky for me. But it's also appropriate because of what I do and how I do it. Are there people here familiar with some of my work? Okay, there's some hands, cool. So I guess I define myself as an artist working in the illustration and animation field. I'm not exactly an illustrator or an animator or an artist, so it's sort of a weird combination. And the reason why risk is such a great theme for me is because I improvise all of my works. I do some professional animation and illustration, but I really dislike the whole planning and sketching and writing and doing all the right steps to get the proper results. What you're seeing now are just some pages from my sketchbook, and I really like drawing just with a pen, with no ability to erase anything. I don't do construction lines with a pencil and stuff like that, and the reason I do that is because there's a high level of anxiety that comes with overthinking and preparing things. If I don't just jump in and start working, I really can't do anything. So this is sort of a method that I started sort of using. Took me a few years to kind of realize that that's what I need to do. And I've been doing it since second year of school. Now, when I draw digitally, I can always erase lines, and I'm kind of spoiled by that because I like, correcting and fixing things, but I try not to. I just draw lines. We have like this imaginary poster for some imaginary event here with fake text. I really like how text looks with illustration. I think illustrations look better when there's text around, but I don't like writing anything, so I just do it for the aesthetics. This is sort of a poster for an event, and this is a little article about something. I'm not sure what. But the thing is, it's all improvised. And I think a really good way for me to improvise is to create clusters of things. So I start with a small drawing, like in the middle of the blank page, and it's how do you say? I'm not sure, but it's a slow process where you just keep drawing and drawing and drawing and filling the page. It's doodling in your sketchbook. But on the computer, and I aim to make it beautiful. So I just stop when it looks good. I don't know what it's going to look like. I rarely have an idea in my head. This thing is actually a cluster that's made to be the head of Finn the Human from Adventure Time, but you can almost hardly see it. There's like two eyes here, and his like the general shape of its head, but it's very hard to see. But usually I just do really sort of abstract clusters. Some shapes and flowers, and like 80% abstract, 20% figurative. So my clients, they take a risk as well when they hire me because they don't know what they're going to get. This is this old thing that I did for a philosophy magazine from Germany. It was an article about love and the philosophy of love, and I don't know any German, so I didn't read it. They just told me to do something about love, and I told them about my process because they wanted to see sketches, they wanted to see what I'm going to do, and I told them, look, I don't really work that way. Maybe we can try to find like a middle ground. But they were really cool with it. They were like, okay, just do whatever. Let's see what happens. We have a very short deadline. Um, by the way, in Europe, a short deadline means it should be done in 2 weeks, not 2 days like in Israel. So I started using really naive imagery. Like I started with this little crystal heart over here, and then there's like kissing puppies and a flower kissing a bee. I don't know if you can see all those details, but it's almost stupid and naive. But when you improvise it and you get this sort of this weird mess, it doesn't look, like kitsch art. And I think if I had planned it and stuff like that, it would sound really bad. Like I'm gonna do a bunch of hearts and lovey-dovey stuff. That doesn't sound great, but the end result is better than that. Same here. This is an article about LSD brain research, and I did like the most obvious thing. There's like crystals in the sky, and there's a brain and some characters. But somehow the overall look, because I didn't know what I'm going to get, is it's more unique than just saying something like I'm gonna draw a brain, and there's like it's like Lucy in the sky with diamonds, and which really sounds kind of stupid. This is an editorial I recently did for a business magazine in America, and they do want to see sketches. So you just can't you can't pull that stuff with them. So I sort of decided to treat it's an article about veggie burgers. So I decided to treat the buns, the space between the bun, as my canvas for improvisation. And I told them what I'm going to do, and they liked it. And I did sketch it out because they had to see it. So what I did is I made a sketch, and then I turned it off and started drawing. And then I'm like, okay, what do I need to do next? Okay, there's like a flower over there. Okay, turn off the sketch layer, draw the thing. I try not to trace anything, because that kind of ruins the whole spontaneous thing, and my lines actually get really jittery when I trace things. There's no flow. So I'm going to take you through another process with a client, and this is for a multimedia festival in France, and they asked for something that's like really abstract, and my sketch for them was actually like a circle on a page, and I told them it's going to be a beautiful planet with lush vegetation and stuff. And there's a lot of abstract shapes here, but there are some clouds. There's a little house. There's always tiny houses in everything that I do. I'm not sure why. And they liked it, but they wanted something more powerful. And asked them what they meant, and it was kind of hard to communicate because they're French, and we had to talk in English, and their English is not that great, and mine is not so great either, when I write emails especially. So they wanted less details. They wanted something more oomph. So I told them, look, I can change colors, and I can hide things, I can block out things, but everything that I've done, I can't really change it because there's too many layers of things. This is vector art. So it's an Illustrator, and it's such a pain to change that. So I started blocking out things with like big circles and changing the colors. They didn't really like that, but they said it was a step in the right direction. So after a while, we got this. This is the final illustration. I picked two colors and did like a two-tone gradient, and I blocked out things with clouds, and they were crazy about the clouds. They cut them out and started putting them on all of the posters and presenters and everything. Like everything about that festival was the clouds, and they kind of cropped it and turned it into a poster. This is not running at the actual speed. It's kind of choppy, so try to imagine it about, yeah, like double. When I animate, I try to do the same thing. I improvise. And that means that, like, if you see a face here, it's kind of helpful that it's slower because I can actually show stuff. Like you see that little face here. I start with a face. I start with a shape, and I do like a frame by frame drawing of, you know, the evolution of that shape and the decay of that shape, and then I go back to the beginning of the timeline and I draw another shape, and then another one, and another one, and I just improvise it. Again, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm just, you know, I'm looking for something. I'm trying to be surprised by the final result. So it's not different than just doodling in my sketchbook. So these, I put them together because I thought it's kind of confusing, and I like that. You can see some maybe figurative elements there, you know, there's like maybe mountains and a tree and a volcano puffing smoke, and maybe you can catch this little bird thing. Whoop. Yeah. But because I'm not sure what I'm doing, you know, I can't really say. And I also take the cluster approach when I animate. So things are usually semi-connected, and that means that things influence, like the movement of one blob can influence the movement of another blob, and I sort of I use the physics of something that I already. These are done in Flash, although lately I've been working a lot in Photoshop, which has it's a nicer way to draw, because Flash, when you do a line, it's not the line you intended. You have to fix it a lot of the times. So after a while, decided to kind of change things, and I like to challenge myself. So I decided maybe instead of clusters floating in space, I'll use a format, and I decided I want to use the circle because I like unusual video formats. I like, you know, not just doing a widescreen or stuff like that. I've done music videos before, but I think it would be amazing to do like a music video. It's not very original, but like inside of a triangle or a circle or something like that. When I was a kid, I used to hang out at a carpet factory because my mom was a carpet designer, and she did like a gigantic circular carpet, and I think that image is really stuck in my brain. So I did several of these, and I think that format sort of helped me to create things that look like they almost have a narrative of some sorts. Because we have trees, and we got like, it looks like a world, like you're peeking into a world instead of a world floating in space. These are some more shape things. This is kind of different because I have lots of characters here. A lot of people told me it kind of looks like a scene from Paprika, if you guys know that film. It's a Japanese, it's an anime, it's amazing, and I don't know if I was influenced by that, but that's one of my favorite movies, so probably. And here on your right, I tried to do something a bit different. So I drew a whole frame, like the entire thing, you know, and I colored it instead of doing one shape at a time. And that kind of influenced the animation because you get this, like there's air pumping into this forest, like everything is growing all at once. And this was for this weird exhibition, well, not exactly an exhibition, a gallery in Canada that they have outside of the building. Instead of a window, they have this big screen, this vertical screen, and I try to connect two loops together. So you see there's like a little bloop, little thing happening between two worlds. This one I call the womb, because there's a little, I guess, baby with a pacifier and this mega placenta being watching over it. And I try to kind of step outside of the circle a bit here, and I did little tiny blobs that are climb up and then they kind of fall back down again. So each one is kind of like a story, but not a story that I wrote before I made it. Here's another one. And here we have a lot of elements you can actually recognize, like a chef and a mare house, like a mermaid house. And I try to change techniques a bit. So this one is done in Photoshop, and I use textures here. So another one of those houses, and a beating heart. That's also like I see hills and a lake and a house, and maybe a sun, but I don't know if that's something that you guys see. And the great thing about improvising is that you can really stumble on new techniques. So, like this creature is, each frame, like take a look at the limbs here. Every frame is actually a brush stroke. There's a big brush, and I just frame, 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 and the entire body is like a gigantic brush that I do the entire body in one stroke. And I kind of like that idea. I used it for that guy too, for his hands and legs, and the head of that guy is like a super huge brush that I use as like I stumped it, like each frame. Tuck, 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 tuck. Even that little floating thing in the air is a square brush that I kind of used to use as a simple stroke. And then, do you guys understand what I'm saying? Okay. Because I feel like I'm... Another thing that I really like doing is, and this is kind of the way that I also make music videos, is that I draw tiny loops and I use them like Lego blocks. So you can see like an individual abstract loop that I made here in Photoshop. And it's kind of, very jittery and not really, you can't really, it's very abstract. And then I take it and I clone it many times, and I build like an almost 3D sculpture. And I offset everything on the timeline so things don't start and end at the same time. And sometimes I rotate the loops, and sometimes I move them up and down, and I play with the colors a bit, and I get something that is completely unexpected. Like here, when I drew this thing, this little yellow thing, I really didn't know what to expect, and I think the result kind of, to me, looks like a cluster of butterflies or something, and I had no way of knowing that before I started doing it, before I got to that phase. Sometimes I combine 2 loops together or 3 loops together. So here we see something very recognizable. It's kind of an octopus thing, but when you put it all together, you get something that's completely not the original thing. You can't really see the octopus anymore. And I combine it with this house. And I'm not sure which one is better. I actually like the individual ones, but sometimes that's what happens. I also try to use different sizes. So these loops are made from tiny versions of the same loop and huge versions. So it's really endless. The variations are like, there's so many things you can do. Sometimes I make characters. When you do like a symmetry, it always creates a character. So you have like this lizard, evil lizard king or something here, and this little dog is comprised from one tiny loop. I don't even remember what it looks like because it's kind of old. The only thing that's not part of the loops here is the tongue, which I animated separately. And sometimes I just, let the original thing shine through. So we have like a Wolverine snake here, and Finn the human again from Adventure Time, turning into his backpack and back again. And I try to make the general shape of its head using the cluster, but I don't think I managed to do that really because there's too much movement. Sometimes I clone things and then I draw another thing on top of that. So this little creature is sort of jumping on top of this snaky thing. Remember, this is supposed to be like twice as fast. But generally what I enjoy is making those brushstrokes. I just enjoy, it's very satisfying for me to just create movement. This is like a really basic thing that I do, which I think shines through in everything that I do. I just enjoy drawing, and planning and sketching and overthinking is just something that I'm not. It's just not part of the process. It kind of ruins it for me. So this is what I do, and yeah, thanks.